Brad Raffensperger. The day before, there was widespread speculation that the president had committed one or more crimes in his effort to overturn the results of the election in Georgia, including extortion and, ironically, election fraud. A recording of the one-hour call was released last night by the Washington Post. The president is heard pressuring Raffensperger to find 11,780 votes that would put him in the lead over President-elect Joe Biden in Georgia, which has already certified its results. He also threatened with the possibility of criminal charges unless he comes up with the votes to overturn the election results. This week is finding us back in a familiar place, waiting for Georgia to count votes. With control of the U.S. Senate at stake, all eyes are on this runoff election. And a record 3 million early votes have already been cast in the two Georgia runoff elections that will decide which party controls the U.S. Senate. The unprecedented Republican effort to overturn the presidential election has been condemned by an outpouring of current and former GOP officials, warning the effort to sow doubt in Joe Biden's win and keep President Trump in office is undermining Americans' faith in democracy. In an extraordinary rebuke of President Trump, all 10 living former secretaries of defense have cautioned against any move to involve the military in pursuing claims of election fraud, arguing that it would take the country into dangerous, unlawful and unconstitutional territory. The 10 men, both Democrats and Republicans, signed into an opinion article published in the Washington Post that implicitly questioned Trump's willingness to follow his constitutional duty to peacefully relinquish power on the 20th of this month. Speaker Nancy Pelosi has won a fourth non-consecutive term to lead the House of Representatives, suffering a handful of defections in a narrow vote after her party lost seats but kept control of the chamber. After serving for 17 years in charge of the House Democrats, she ran unopposed in her election, the first woman to be Speaker, leading the House from 2006 to 2011 and since the Democrats took back the House in 2018. The United States has recorded more than 20 million cases of COVID-19, according to the Johns Hopkins University. As the new year brought another grim milestone underlining the country's struggle to quell the virus, more than 125,000 people are currently hospitalized with coronavirus, another record according to the COVID tracking project. Even as transmissions spike across the nation, U.S. air travel hit its highest level this last Saturday since mid-March of last year. And New York Governor Andrew Cuomo has said the state has surpassed 1 million confirmed COVID-19 cases, joining California, Texas, and Florida. Former talk show host 87-year-old Larry King has been hospitalized with COVID-19 for more than a week and is undergoing treatment at the Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles. The legendary broadcaster previously has survived a heart attack, prostate and lung cancer, and a stroke. Dr. Anthony Fauci, the United States' leading infectious disease expert, told CNN that he would not be in favor of delaying second doses of the Pfizer, BioNTech and Moderna COVID-19 vaccines to increase the amount of people who can receive their first injection. The UK announced a plan this week that involves stretching the wait time between the first and second shots of the two coronavirus vaccines authorized in the country, including the Pfizer jab, up to 12 weeks. A British judge has rejected the United States' request to extradite WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange to face espionage charges, saying it would be oppressive because of his mental health. And the founder of WikiLeaks has won his fight to avoid extradition to the United States and could be freed this week. A pastor was killed and 2 other people injured yesterday after a suspect allegedly disarmed the church leader and opened fire. The shooting occurred yesterday morning at Starville Methodist Church in Winona, about 100 miles east of Dallas. The apparently unrelated deaths of 2 female Army soldiers in Texas are under investigation after officials said one died after being shot in her car on a freeway on New Year's Day and the other was discovered dead in her military barracks on New Year's Eve. Acting Defense Secretary Christopher Miller said he'd reversed his decision to bring the aircraft carrier USS Nimitz home from the Persian Gulf. He cited recent threats from Iran. And Afghanistan has let off the 10 Chinese nationals caught on the 10th of last month for operating a terror cell in the capital city of Kabul and allowed them to leave the country. Militants ambushed buses traveling down a highway in central Syria late last night, killing 9 people, including a 13-year-old girl. And a massive fire broke out in a warehouse where fuel and gas canisters were stored along the border between Lebanon and Syria, injuring 7 people and causing loud explosion, according to the Lebanese Red Cross. The armed clashes along the border between Sudan and Ethiopia are the latest twist in a decades-old history of rivalry between the two countries, though it is rare for the two armies to fight one another directly over territory. Niger's Prime Minister says 100 people are now known to have been killed in this weekend's attacks by suspected jihadists on 2 villages, both near Niger's border with Mali. Two men convicted over the assassination of the Democratic Republic of Congo's President Kabila 20 years ago have been pardoned. And France's cautious approach to its virus vaccine rollout appears to have backfired, leaving just a few hundred people vaccinated after the first week and rekindling anger over the government's handling of the coronavirus pandemic. President Macron is holding a special meeting with top government officials today to address the vaccine strategy and other virus developments. In France, a country of 67 million people, just 516 people were vaccinated in the first 6 days, while Germany's first week total surpassed 200,000. Thailand's Prime Minister urged the public to stay home to help contain its biggest coronavirus outbreak and avoid a strict lockdown, as authorities confirmed a daily record of 745 new infections, and the government has declared 28 provinces, including Bangkok, as high-risk zones and asked people to work from home and avoid gathering or traveling. South Korea reviewing AstraZeneca's request for approval of its coronavirus vaccine as it expands a ban on private gatherings of more than 4 people to the whole country, with the daily cases topping more than 1,000 in 4 days. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to the World News on Radio Caravan. Carrying poultry and sacks of belongings, a second group of about 1,800 Rohingya refugees transported by Bangladesh from cramped refugee camps on the mainland to the low-lying Bhasan Char island, despite opposition from rights groups. And India's External Affairs Minister Jai Shankar will be travelling to Sri Lanka tomorrow on a visit to cement India's relationship with the island nation. The External Affairs Minister is expected to take up the release of Indian fishermen apprehended last month during the visit that is designed to review the development of bilateral relations between the two neighbours from a strategic and long-term perspective. And a total of 38 people have tested positive for the new UK variant of the coronavirus in India so far. Prime Minister Modi said today that India is on the threshold of starting the largest vaccination program in the world, a day after the country formally approved the emergency use of 2 vaccines against the disease. India's drugs regulator giving final approval for the emergency use of 2 coronavirus vaccines, one developed by AstraZeneca and Oxford University and the other by local company Bharat Biotech. With almost 20,000 fresh recoveries in the last 24 hours, India clocked the highest number of COVID-19 recoveries in the world. Its coronavirus tally, though, has passed 10.3 million after the country reported over 19,000 new cases between the 1st and 2nd of January. And the government ruled out a repeal of the 3 agricultural laws during the 7th round of talks today, asking the delegation of 41 farm union leaders to point out what they considered objectionable in the legislation. This 7th round of talks today between the centre and the protesting farmers underway as the farmers' protests against the centre's farm laws entered its 40th day today. The Supreme Court accepted a letter petition sent to the Chief Justice of India by a group of students from Punjab seeking an inquiry against Haryana police for using water cannons, tear gas shells on farmers to stop them from proceeding to Delhi to protest against the newly enacted farm laws. And the Mumbai Sessions Court has sentenced gangster Chota Rajan and 3 others to 2 years imprisonment in connection with an extortion case. Former Indian captain and cricket board president Sourav Ganguly may be discharged from hospital tomorrow, deferring the angioplasty now that has been deemed as a safer option following a heart attack this weekend. There have been reports in the media regarding reluctance of Indian players to play the 4th Test match against Australia in Brisbane due to the strict quarantine rules, and Cricket Australia has dismissed speculation that India is weighing a boycott of the 4th Test in Brisbane over the need to re-enter strict quarantine conditions. Kane Williamson posted his 3rd century and shared an unbroken 215-run partnership which steered New Zealand close to a first innings lead over Pakistan on the 2nd day of the 2nd cricket test, as New Zealand reached 286 for 3 by stumps in reply to Pakistan's 297. And the sudden announcement by fast bowler Mohammad Amir to quit international cricket has sparked a lot of debate among cricketing circles. On the first day of the 117th Congress, a lawmaker has introduced a bill in the U.S. House of Representatives to terminate the designation of Pakistan as a major non-NATO ally. Introduced by Republican Congressman Andy Biggs, the bill removes Pakistan's designation as a major non-NATO ally, a status that allows for various benefits such as access to excess U.S. defense supplies and participation in cooperative defense research and development projects. Pakistan's education ministers in a meeting today decided to reopen educational institutions in the country in phases from the 18th of this month. And the Pakistan Democratic Movement, in an impressive Bhavalpur show last night, called the opposition's drive against Imran Khan-led PTI government jihad, and announced that stepping back from it would be a major sin. The Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz stands divided on whether to take part in the forthcoming Senate polls as the opposition continues to protest over the arrest of Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz leader Khwaja Mohammad Asif, as the government explained that he had been arrested after his failure to cooperate with officials concerned in